It's like the soundtrack to a movie. Okay, so learning activities part 3, we're going to follow along with this next PowerPoint I'm showing, and we're going to learn about putting images into our website, and we're going to learn about fonts. So the handout I just gave you and the one that you're going to get, both are right here in Blackboard as well, and they're all down here as well. So, PowerPoint, here we go. All right, we're going to look at adding graphics and text styling. So we're going to learn about what kind of graphics we can use on a website, how to add them, how to configure them as a background. So you guys have been to web pages where there's actually an image in the background, not just a color, right? So we're going to learn that. We're also going to learn how they can be hyperlinks. So you can click on the picture to go somewhere instead of words. We are not going to do multiple backgrounds. I should have taken that one out. We are going to learn how to do typeface in different sizes and weights using all CSS. And we're going to learn how to align and indent. So how to center text, make it left, flush right. This markers I'm not going to share with you. That would be the bullet points if you wanted to change them into something graphical like an image. That's doable with CSS, but I'm skipping that. Thought I updated this. This is worrying me. And we're not doing an image map. Those are a little bit too much. So basically, the types of graphics commonly used on websites are GIFs, JPEGs, and PNGs. Those are the 3 different types. So a GIF or GIF, depending on how you were raised to say that word, is pretty cool because it supports transparency. So if you had words and put it on a blue background and it didn't have transparency, this blue background would have to pile up on top of whatever pretty background you had. However, if you use transparency, the words basically are saved on a clear piece of plastic and they float over whatever background is behind there. So obviously that looks better. GIFs work great for line art, logos, words. They don't look good for pictures. True photos you should do as JPEGs or PNGs. GIFs can be animated. You've seen those, and they're quite used on the internet. JPEGs are best for photographs. They have up to 16.7 million colors, whereas a GIF can support 256. Can our eye see 16.7 million colors? I don't know. But you can see in that image right there of the pretty blue waters, we're seeing a lot of different colors. JPEGs can't be animated and they cannot be made transparent. You can't see through them. A PNG is kind of the best of both worlds. They support millions of colors, and they can be transparent. So you can knock out the backgrounds on those and see the actual background of a website. So PNGs are pretty popular right now as well. So just a chart of everything we talked about. But in general, those are the 3 that you're going to learn about. Image optimization, we're actually going to do this in a couple weeks where you're going to take a photo that's probably from a digital camera and is quite big, and you're going to make it optimized for the web. So think about a company like Amazon. How many photographs do you think are on the Amazon website? I can't even, right?
Billions, trillions, billions?
Yeah, and let's pretend that they're not that big, but they're each 1 megabyte. That's a lot of megs, right? That's a huge storage that they would have to deal with. So even if you just have your own website and you have 50 products and say you have 100 photos on your website, you want them to look good because they're selling your product or your service, right? They should be gorgeous pictures, but you want them to look as good as they can at the smallest file size because you have to save all that on your server and people have to download it. If you've ever had a slow internet connection years ago and you'd watch pictures come down and they'd almost come in like a line by line, it was horrible. So optimizing images is smart for your end user and for you. So we're actually going to look at that in a couple of weeks. We're going to use some or see some software that we can do that. So Photoshop is one, and there's a bunch of free ones online as well. When you name your photo files, this is important. Use all lowercase letters. Don't use punctuation. Don't use spaces. Do you remember I showed you how a space will add %, 20% to the name of the file name? Don't use them. Run your file name all together or use a hyphen or an underscore. Okay? It's really important. Keep your file names short but descriptive. Something that when you're looking through all your images, you're going to know what it is and be able to use it. So 12397.jpg is not going to be very good, right? Unless you're a math savant or something. Long sleeve sweater red, long sleeve sweater blue. You're going to know what you're looking at. Pacific Trails, if it says yurt, paddleboard, hiking in woods, you're going to know what those images are, right? So naming them is really important. And guess what? If the name of the file is yurts.jpg and in your HTML code you ask it to go get the file called yurt singular JPEG, not going to work. It has to be exactly how you spelled it, exactly how you named it. So again, spelling is critical. All right, how we get a picture to show up is with the image tag, img. So that's the opening tag, and then we give it a bunch of details. It's an image. What is the source? It's called cake.gif, and then some extra stuff. That's the basics of what you need. Image source, and then the name of the file. This other stuff is the alt tag. That is what a screen reader would read when it comes to the picture, because screen readers are for blind or visually impaired people. So when it gets to it, it would say photo of birthday cake. That's important for people that have disabilities and need that help. Have any of you ever loaded a web page where the photo didn't load and you get the red X?
Yep.
Or it's waiting to load? If there's an alt tag, that will appear there too. So it'll be a red X, but it will say birthday cake. So at least you know the picture you're waiting for is birthday cake. So alt tags are really important. And then if you want to specifically tell it a height and width to be, not just let it be whatever it is on its own, you specify height and width. The danger to that is, let's say we have a picture of a person and it's a vertical shot, and let's just say it is a 4x6 photo. So it's 6 inches tall, 4 inches wide. Would that go to 100 by 100 and look good? Meaning that would make it a square, right? So it would smush this down to 100 pixels and this to 100, and you would either be really skinny or really round, one or the other. It's going to squish the pixels. So only do that when you know that your image can handle a specific number, okay? We'll see that later, but you can't just guess on that. You need to know what you're doing. So the alt tag is really important. It's required if your site is going to be, if you work for any federal government, any school, anything like that, you have to have alt tags or you're not meeting accessibility requirements. So any big company, any small company, always should use alt tags, really important. So let's do a hands-on practice from page 133 in your book. And all right, we need to do a couple of things before we get going. So let's go to your desktop level and to your Trillium folder. Right now, you should have 3 pages and your CSS file. We need to add some graphics into this folder so we can work with them. And right now, they're in images that you downloaded. So go into your downloads and chapter 4, 5, and 6 we downloaded and unzipped. Go into the chapter 5 folder that we downloaded earlier today. And
What?
we also then need to go into the starters folder. So in the chapter 5 download starters folder, we need to get a file called Trillium Banner JPEG. So Trillium Banner, what is this? This is not even Trillium.
Is it Trill Starters?
Yeah, it's Trill Starters.
Yeah.
Oh, version 1 to version 2 of this book. Okay, so there's a subchapter called Trill Starters. Yay. Oh gosh, I haven't used a PC in so long, I'm feeling really stupid. How do I change the view to be a list? There we go, but I want details. Okay, so over here you can see that these are a GIF, a JPEG, whatever. So what they want us to copy into our other folder is Trillium Banner JPEG, and that's it. So I'm going to do a copy, and then I'm going to go back to my folder, not this, and I'm going to paste it in there. So if you want to have two windows open and drag and drop, or whatever you want to do, we need this image called Trillium Banner.
What folder is that in?
Chapter 5, Trill Starters.
Did you extract this file? No. Right click. Extract all. Yes. File. Trillions. Trill starters. And then you go to list version. Right click. Right click. View details. Or list. Whatever. Well, you have the banner.
So in
She wants it in the Trillium
Downloads, Chapter 5,
Yeah.
Trill Starters. That's where you're going to find this. Trillium Banner. All right. So we now should have 3 HTML files, a CSS file, and a JPEG ready for us to use. All right. Let's go back to Notepad and go to our index page. And starter. I hope this Chapter 5 starter didn't have more information than I'm thinking it did. I think I may have a slight problem. Hold on one second. Thought this would go easy, but I should have checked it out. All right, let's go down in our index page, and we're going to go down to let's look at our CSS file. Sorry guys, I should be better at this here. In our header, so far we have coded for a background color and an actual color. Yep.
Is it for Pacific or Trillium?
Trillium.
This is on Pacific.
Oh my god, thank you. Go away. If you have all these tabs open like I do, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? File, open. Desktop, Trillium. Index. File, open. Trillium CSS. Okay, there we go. So far in our Trillium CSS file, we have coded for a background color and a text color. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an image. So in our index page, we're going to, not in the CSS, we're going to go down to the header. And about halfway down on page 133, it talks about delete the text contained between the H1 opening and closing tags. So instead of saying Trillium Media Design, we're going to delete that out. And we are going to instead put the Trillium Banner JPEG website inside here. So inside here, I'm going to tab that down, we are going to have IMG, that stands for the image, SRC is the source equals, and then in quotes, it's going to be the name of the file. So trilliumbanner.jpg, end quote. And to be accurate and correct, we're going to give it an alt tag. So ALT equals, and this is what the words that a screen reader would say out loud or that you would see with the red X if the picture didn't work. So the alt tag we're going to use is Trillium Media Design. And then they specifically know the height and width of this banner, and they want to make sure that it's displayed only at that size. It's 700 by 68 or 86 pixels, and they don't want to run any risk of it being made larger or smaller. So the two things that we're going to also tell it to be is the width. So you're going to say width equals, and then in quotation marks, 700. And then you're going to say height equals, and in quotes, 86. And then close out the last caret. So now inside of our heading 1, we actually have a picture being pulled up. Do a save and a run in Chrome. Good Lord. Obviously, we missed some parts earlier on in this chapter that fixed everything else. Looks pretty ugly. I see some different colors being used. And I have a feeling that starter file, had we used it, would have done that. So let's go and fix that. But did you guys get the banner to show up?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go back to our style. And I bet if I look through my notes, I can figure this bad boy out. Let's make our background color be, instead of these blues that it was before, let's make it be F4, FF, E4, and the color of our body, let's make the 333333. For our heading 1, let's make our background color be D as in dog, 5, E, D, Ed, and then B3. The H1 color, we're going to make be 5, C, 7, 4, 3D. And then for our heading 2, the background color is going to be D5, Ed B3, ED B3. And our color is going to be 5C, 7, 4, 3D. All right. Let's see how that looks now. Hopefully it's better. Oh, wrong one. Much better. Instead of all those blues, we've changed it to be greens. Okay, I want you guys to notice back in our actual HTML file, where we came to the heading 1, we had added this image source. So, oops, grief. So that threw in that picture that's 86 pixels high by 700 wide. And in our heading 1, if we look at our rules, all we've told our heading 1 to be is a certain color with a certain text color. And we don't even have text right now. But when we look at it in Chrome, can you see this little bit of green space right here underneath the image? Like the heading 1 is a little bit bigger than the actual image size. So this is not something I would expect you guys, you aren't going to be building websites from code, I get that. But just so you understand what's going on so you can troubleshoot this, the heading 1 is a little bit bigger than the banner itself. So we can fix that by going into our style sheet, and where the heading 1 is, we can give it a specific rule. We can add on a rule. So I'm just going to go down another line and add a rule. And we're going to tell it to have a height of 86 pixels, 86px, and then a semicolon. So we gave it a third rule in our style sheet. Now when we look at that index page, it should fix that. Yep, we no longer have that weird little gap. The heading 1 is the same size as Trillium Media Design. This picture is only 700 pixels wide. It probably stops right about here if we saw it back in our folder. The reason that all this is that same color green is why. Who can tell me why that is? Why doesn't it stop right here and then turn light green or white or whatever?
Because you don't give it a width.
You don't give it what?
You didn't give it a width in the CSS. You just told it that it's going to be big.
Yeah, the heading 1 only has some colors assigned to it. It's told to have a background color of green and be 86 high is the only rule. It can be as wide as it needs to be. The image itself is actually going to stop about right here, but because these colors are the exact same shade of green, it works. It looks seamless. Okay? You would never know how big somebody's going to view this on. So if I'm in the Mac lab, my screens are way bigger. And if I told that banner to be 1,000 pixels wide, assuming it would fill everybody's screen, guess what? It's not going to fill everybody's screen. And what happens when you look at it on a phone or on something else? It's going to look weird or get squished down. So that's why they stopped the graphic right where they could at 700 pixels wide, and they just let the color take over the rest of it. All right. So in a long roundabout way, because I didn't have to use the starter file, good job.
Yay!
Yay! We should look like this. All right. What's next? See if I can get a few more done. So that's your image link. We just did that. A thumbnail image, I'm not going to show you that. We're not going to practice it in real life. But basically what it is a whole lot of code. You guys have seen thumbnails where it's a small picture, and when you hover on it or click on it, it takes you to the big one. This is the code, and hopefully it makes sense. The anchor, remember the anchor tags? Anything we put A around is going to be a hyperlink, right? Anything, whether it's words, pictures, whatever. So the A tag is wrapped around all of this. The A tag is linking to a picture called large. That's what it's going to jump to. What's actually showing up, normally we would have words here that would say, visit us soon, and that would be the hyperlink. What's actually showing up is an image that's the small version, this one. So this is what shows up, and it's hyperlinked to this. So does that code kind of make sense to you now that you understand basic codes? The anchor tag is wrapping something, and the thing that's being hyperlinked, instead of being words, this time it's a picture, and it's jumping to another picture, a bigger picture.
Wait, so do you have to have two pictures?
Yeah, you would have to have one called like island small and island big in your thing. Yeah, good question. Later on, I'm going to show you, and by later I mean soon, Wix and WordPress, which are web creation platforms that are a lot easier and more visual. And the cool thing about especially WordPress is you upload one picture and it makes a thumbnail, a small, medium, and a large for you automatically, and it knows when to use them. So WordPress is pretty cool. All right, hands on. Let's see how messed up this one can be. 134 and 135. Okay, we are going to add an image. All right. We need to first go get some of those images from that folder. So I hate to be stupid, but I work on a Mac all the time now, and I cannot remember what I'm doing. How do I get another window to show up so I can drag and drop from one to the other? Huh?
Just click on it, like right click, and then open another one.
You don't need a second window though. That little sidebar works as a second window.
But I want to have the
Two of them, right? You want to have two windows?
I want to have two windows
Yeah,
open.
just open one, and then it'll open up.
Okay, I got to think where I went. It's on the desktop, and no, it's on downloads. Dang it. Okay, thank you. I have two windows open now. So in chapter 5. So I'm just doing this so I can drag and drop from one to the other. So I have Trillium starters open, and I have my desktop folder.
If you put it all the way to the corner, it will open in a screen. Yeah, no, push it all the way towards.
Which way?
To the left.
Yeah.
And then it'll open up in one screen. Yep, and then you can pick another one on the side. Yeah, that one, the Trillium folder, and then it'll be even.
Oh, see, things I never knew. It doesn't matter how you do this. Honestly, I'm not this dumb. I'm just so, I've worked on a Mac now for so long, I feel stupid on a PC. So, bottom line is we need to get some graphics from the Trillium Starters folder that we downloaded into our folder of Trillium so that we can link to them. So what we need is we need the home button, the services, and the contact. So home, services, and contact. If you hold the control key when you click on them, you can highlight all three. You don't need to do this 3 times. And then we're going to drag those 3 GIFs over. I just want to show you what they look like. This is what we're grabbing. They're actual graphics. They're buttons. So we're taking those 3 buttons and we're bringing them over into our folder. All right. Back to our Trillium site. What we want to do is we want to go into our navigation section on our index page. And the first thing that we want to do, so it says number 1, I'm on page 134. Whenever the main navigation consists of media, like images, some browsers might not be able to see them. So what we're going to do is instead of our words, home, services, and contact, we're going to put those graphic JPEG buttons in. They're going to be pictures. If people's browsers have issues with those, it's always nice at the bottom of your page to have a text-based link also, just like we did. So for sure to make it easy. So everything that we have in the nav, what it's saying is we're going to copy the nav element containing that area to the lower portion and paste it in the footer line above the copyright. So we're going to take bold to bold and we're going to copy it. We're not deleting it. So we're copying it, and then further down on our page in the footer section, we're going to put this above the copyright line. So the first thing in our footer is going to be the navigation links again, in bold. So what we've done is, they're still up here, as you can see, but now they're also down in my navigation. And because they come right before the copyright, they're not on their own line. How do we get my copyright information to bump down one line?
The break.
The break, yep. So after the closing bold tag, I'm going to do a break, BR. Save that. And that's going to push the copyright down. So now up here, these 3 we're going to replace with images. And we're going to have those buttons linked to the right pages. But just to be safe, we're giving a text-based navigation down at the bottom. So back up at the top of our page in the real navigation. So in the body, in the navigation section, instead of the word home showing up here, we still want it wrapped in the anchor tags because that's telling it what page to go to. But instead of the word home, you can delete that out, maybe put some space there so you understand what we're doing. This is where we're plopping in the image for the home button. And that is actually an image, so it's opening caret IMG. And then we have to say, okay, which one? Source src equals, and then in quotes, home.gif, end quotes. That's the file it's going to put here. We're going to give it an alt tag so that it can be read by screen readers. And that's going to be home. So it would say the word home out loud. We're going to assign the width of this to be 120. And we're going to assign the height to be 40. The reason they're doing this is that they know that the graphic itself is 120 pixels by 40 pixels. That's not a guess, they actually know that. So wrapped in the anchor tag is this picture, this image. And let's see if that worked. There it is. We now have a button. Okay? So let's go and do that with the other three. So the services button, instead of the word services showing up here, we're actually going to put the image in here. And sometimes, like I've said, it's easier to copy and paste code than to continually retype it. So I'm going to copy this image tag right here, and I'm going to paste it inside of my anchor codes for the line services. And all I have to do is change out the name of the image that it's going to pull to. And the one that it's going to pull to is services.gif. And then we're going to do the same thing with contact page. So instead of linking to the word contact being the hyperlink, it's actually going to be a picture, whoops, an image that is linked to an image source of, make sure I get it right here, contact.gif. And it too is, then we also, I'm sorry, we need to change the alt tags as well, because what it says out loud has to be different. So the alt tag for services should be services, and the alt tag for the contact page should be contact or contact us, whatever you'd want the screen reader to say. And we're going to save it and run it. And we're also going to go back into our code, and we're going to wipe out the non-breaking space that we have between all three of them. So I'm going to take those out, because those were still being underlined with a little hyperlink line. So here's the first one, here's the second image, here's the third image in my navigation. And when you save and run that, why did that check those out? Do you guys have the little underscore right there too? Mm-hmm. Trillium index, Trillium services. It's like the space is still hyperlinked and there shouldn't be a space anymore.
Yeah, mine.
I wonder if it has anything to do with these spaces. I'm going to take them out just in case. Okay, that got rid of them. That's interesting, because usually when you hit a space bar, it doesn't actually show up in your code. So I had a space between the closing image and the opening tag of the end A, and that was what was causing it. So any spaces you have between these carets right here, wipe those out, and it should be good. All right, when you view this on some browsers, it's not happening on Chrome, but on some browsers, if I were to hover over this image, it would automatically put a blue outline around it, showing me that it's a hyperlink, that's a border. So maybe Internet Explorer would do that, and that's pretty ugly and people don't tend to like that. So we're going to add one line of code to the CSS that's going to make that not happen, just in case it does. Again, not something you need to know, but we're just going to add it because it's a quick add. So go to your CSS page for Trillium, and we need to add an entirely new rule. And this rule is for IMG. So any of the images that we put in our website, curly brace, the rule for those is going to be border hyphen style colon none semicolon. In other words, when you hover over it, don't put that ugly blue hyperlink box around it. So we don't see it, but some browsers might. So save your code, and that should be good. All right. So that got us through that. The next section we want to learn about is the background images. So instead of having just a color as our background, we could actually have pictures or textures that would work. So in your handout, the way we do this is with a CSS in our body. So we have background color so far, and we have text color. The one that we would add here if we wanted a picture to be the background is something called background-image, and then you tell it where to go get this file. And that would actually pull up whatever picture it is and bring that in. So, don't think we're actually going to practice this on the Trillium site. And the background repeat stuff, yeah, I'm actually just showing this. I put it in your handout just so you would see how it works, but we're not going to do it. So let me see if I can give you an example. So for body, I'm going to say background, you don't need to do this, you can just see how it works. Background image, and then in colon, you would put, where did you go? URL, parentheses, you guys again don't need to do this, Trillium gradient.png, and I did not add that yet, it's still in my other folder, so I would have to do that quick. Ugh. Yeah. So Trillium gradient is right here. I brought that over to my folder, now it's something it can find, and so the background image is a Trillium gradient, and if I saved it and ran it, this is what it would look like. Oh,
Wrong page.
Wrong, you, run. Okay, you see the gradient? Can you see how it's a darker green to a lighter green?
Mm-hmm.
So the background file that we put in starts at really light green at the top and gets darker and darker as it goes down, and it's just this skinny strip, but it repeats all the way across the page. It's not one big graphic. It's this skinny little thing. So if I look at it in here, oh, you know what? I heard there's no picture viewers. Oh my God, I can't believe this. I can't believe you can't look at JPEGs in here. That's what it is. It's this skinny little gradient, and it repeats left to right across the whole part of your screen. Why do you think they would do that instead of making a big piece that's all green?
Smaller file.
File size, right? It'd be bigger, and then how big do you have to make it to fill up every single monitor out there? What if people show it on their TV screen? If your file is only 1,000 pixels wide, it's still not going to work. This just repeats across the entire duration, so it works perfectly. So in your handout, we are not going to do this, but I just want you to look at the section on position background images. It shows you off to the left, let me pull this up. Okay, on this page, it shows you off to the left. This is what this little piece looks like. It's this tiny little graphic snippet that has black and then let's say gray, because that's what we're seeing here. So it's this tiny little graphic, and if you tell your background image to only repeat on the y-axis, it only goes right here. So that little chip of pattern lines up right here. If you tell it to repeat on the x-axis, and this is what your graphic chip looks like, it's going to go across here. If you tell it to not repeat, it's going to show up once at the top left corner. Here's examples with the graphic itself is one single little leaf. If you tell it to repeat Y, it'll go down the left side, X will go across the top. No repeat, we'll just push it in one spot. So what we would do if we were in this full class is we would actually take this one single Trillium leaf and we would plop it down in the corner of our graphic, and we're not going to bother with that. What I do want to share with you, hopefully, is the couple of things that we can do on Pacific Trails and how they're going to relate to your homework on Java Jam. So let's work through Pacific Trails real quickly in class, and we're only going to add a couple of things to this. So let me get my notes together, and we are stopping right here. We talked about the background image property and about how we could repeat it. And we're not going to do that. So the next thing that we're going to go on to next week is configuring type. So because we didn't get through this whole handout, I'm going to stop right at this point. So the only homework that you have, and I need to update Blackboard for that, is to do Java Jam up to the point of what we just talked about earlier, which was just stylizing it with a basic CSS sheet. So from that first handout I gave you, where have you gone? So the first handout that I gave you was called CSS Syntax for Color Values. Yeah, that one. We worked through Pacific Trails together, and I want you to do Java Jam. And I talked to you about the parts that you're going to do and not do earlier. So basically, you're adding a style sheet. You're adding, I think, 3 style rules, and then you're linking it. You're linking those 2 pages in Java Jam to that style sheet. That's it. I'm going to stop the learning plan right there, and we'll pick up next week with it. So just so you know, next week we're going to finish this. We're going to do a whole entire practice on a brand new site. And actually that site is only HTML. It's not even style sheet, so we're going to refresh on that. I'm going to give you a in-class quiz that you can use your notes and your files for. You just can't use your neighbor. And hopefully then you are 100% ready with HTML the following week to take a midterm. Don't be freaked. So whatever site we build next week, whatever we practice in class, that test is going to be identical to that, but with a new company and new topic. It's just HTML. It's not even CSS, so anything we covered today is not in there. It's basic HTML. Okay, so next week we'll finish this, review. April 2nd, you will take a test of making a 3-page website in HTML. Okay? Able to use your notes, able to use your files, able to use anything and everything but each other and me. Okay? That's the plan. All right. If you have questions, let me know.